So tell us a little bit about, your story from, where you're from and how basketball sort of entered your life and became part of, what I'm now sitting across from, which is someone who loves basketball and wants to give back to it, particularly for athletes that are kind of coming up.
Yeah, so I grew up in South Bend, Indiana, and my dad worked in higher education at the University of Notre Dame, so I was always around sports. My dad played basketball Division III at the College of Worcester, so that paved the way for my sister and I, who ended up playing Division I basketball at Florida, who's 3 years older. So I was always around sports. I played 3 sports growing up, but basketball was my outlet because it was fast. I played baseball, but I was like, you know what? I don't know if this is fast enough. And I was a troublemaker in middle school. I was a troublemaker in elementary. My incident report was this big. I was told I wasn't going to graduate high school. I was told that, I'd probably be in juvenile justice. And so basketball was my outlet. And I realized I was really good at it. And it's where I could take all that anxiety, all that anger, and just channel it into playing as hard as I could on the floor. And so that really just what kept me out of trouble. In 8th grade, I was going down a wrong path. I could go down this path or this path. But I was so good at basketball, I was like, you know what? I don't want to mess this up. I want to play varsity as a freshman in high school, and that was my goal. So I shot for that, and I did everything I could to stay out of trouble doing that. And so that's kind of how it all started. And I made varsity as a freshman in Indiana. That's a very big deal at a 4A school. And then from then on, I went on and had a big freshman year. I hit 4 threes in one quarter, which really kind of started to get my name out there. And then going into my sophomore season, I dropped 35, 28, 26, and I started to have colleges on me. Then, so I was recruited as a freshman in high school. I was recruited in 8th grade by the University of Fordham from a camp at Phenom 150.
Incredible.
So I had,
you're on the radar.
Yeah, I was on the radar pretty quick. I was a point guard, so I dribbled the ball more than I used to. I played with a lot of flash, and I could see the floor well and score at any level. And so, yeah, then that kind of just paved the way, and then I got into the recruiting process, and I picked up a few Division I offers as a sophomore, Drake, Bucknell, Bowling Green, and then that kind of just paved the way, and then I went on to play Division I basketball at Western Michigan and then the University of IUPUI, but went through a lot of struggles along the way to get there.
Amazing. Yeah, I can't wait to dig into your journey and double click on all of that. But before we do, I would love to learn more about the anger anxiety piece. Like, where do you think that came from, and how did you learn that? Like, were there people, for example, that were kind of coaching you then, whether in your family? I know you had a very athletic, very dynamic family in terms of athletics at a minimum, and certainly your dad sounds like a terrific person that has been involved in higher academics. And so, like, at what point and like what was the inspiration for being like, I gotta not go down the kind of the left turn, and instead I gotta stay on the straight and narrow?
I was bullied from 3rd grade probably on to my senior year of high school, and I was always like the outcast. So people found ways to pick at me because I was different, right? I was loud spoken. I dressed different. If whatever is on my mind, I said it. So like basketball was my way to really prove myself. It was a way to really show all that work that I put in the driveway, all that work at 5 a.m., all that work going to the gym, that it was worth it, And I think that growing up, like, school wasn't easy for me. So my mom was very, very smart. She was in tech. She worked at St. Mary's, so the neighboring school of Notre Dame. So my mom would help me with school, but I was stubborn. I struggled. I learned differently. And so it was tough growing up with my mom, and I don't blame her one bit because we're very, very close, but I wasn't the easiest kid. So it was hard. And I think that with being bullied created a lot of anxiety. It created a lot of not self-confidence, a lot of uncertainty. And so basketball was my way to really go out there and prove myself.
So it's interesting. I thank you for sharing that, because I think it's a really important
I never
topic.
have.
I appreciate you sharing that, because your emotional intelligence is so like next level that I knew that there would be something there that maybe contribute to that. And I think bowling is probably not an uncommon feature for people that get to where I've seen you be in terms of how you relate to other people, how you kind of are so authentic, and as you call it, I've listened to your other interviews where you say, I'm real, I'm just real, and what you see is what you get, which is so great. But because bullying is a huge topic that a lot of kids deal with, and it's super unfortunate. And the age of social media can really get out of control, and really meaningfully impact people in ways that could set the trajectory of their life. And so for you to be able to kind of get through that is huge. I did have one thought though, which I'm curious what you think about this, which is it's actually, in my limited experience, it seems rare that someone that's a very, very good athlete would be bullied. So
I know.
Were the people bullying you sort of like in some way jealous of that kind of thing, or was that
jealous?
What are the dynamics?
In high school, I had a Twitter made about me called the Leo Show, that my own student section would tweet nasty things about me during the game to try to get a reaction, to try to get me to reaction. I had a teammate that made Twitters about me that would hashtag my number and like refer to me as like keying on me. So for an example, say when I had 20 in the first half, I'm in the locker room, I'm like, guys, they're keying on me. We got to find a way to get other guys involved. This senior didn't like that. So he'd go and tweet about it
in the locker room.
Tweet about it that night, tweet about it, invite me to senior sleepovers, harass me, all that. It got so bad that my junior year, I didn't go to the high school banquet because I was that harassed by my team. And that type of stuff motivates me. And I think that's why I keep going. I think that's why I give back, because I see what kids go through. I see how hard coaches were on me back in the day, where I just like, you know what? I just wish that coach would pick me up and give me confidence. I didn't have that. And I know I was a tough kid, but I work with tough kids and I know how to work through that. So I think that's the whole summary of where it's brought me today.
That is so terrific.
Thank you.
There's something about the way you coach, which starts of course with the technical expertise, which obviously is very helpful to get in the door, but probably the reason why they keep you and that you have such great relationships with them. The kind of thing that I witnessed 2 days ago at Pepperdine was like, oh, I get it now. I totally get why people want to work with him.
Thank you.
You bring a kind of energy, a kind of charisma. And we talked a little bit about how you can push people when it's when you know what's in their mind and how they're doing. Let's say Addie missed 2 shots in a row.
Right.
You're building her up then. Right?
Yeah.
You're building her up, and then sometimes she's draining threes 5 feet out of the three, and you're like, you're maybe pushing her and encouraging her at the same time. So, but
showing her that I believe in it.
That you believe in it, yeah. That's a really
like we
huge
didn't work
thing.
on the mid-range. We did mid-range shooting, right, from like close up once. Everything else was deep threes.
Yeah.
Because it's a new game and not many can do it. And if you can do it, it separates you.
Oh yeah.
But I get it. Breaks their confidence down like no other. And they got cameras in their face and they're like pressured, like, oh man. But I build them back up and I'm like, look, if you trust the process this hour, you'll see what's gonna happen.
Yeah, that seems like it's been a key kind of motto for you, is kind of trusting the process. And we'll talk about all that in a moment. But before we do, how did you, because like basketball is a team sport,
right?
And so you had this kind of interesting, unfortunate dynamic where you at some level didn't really trust or like or be certainly particularly close friends with, let's say, I don't know what the friend part, but having teammates basically go behind your back and try to tear you down is very difficult in a team sport, because then, for when they're keying you up, as you said, and you got to move the ball around and make those very guys that are tweeting in the locker room nasty things about you be the star of that game, for example, and like serve the team in that role, which is maybe more about assists and this kind of thing. So like, how did you get through that? Like, what was the thinking there, and how did you evolve through that kind of dynamic?
Man, I wanted to quit. I tried to be a good person to everybody, but like you see when you watched me train the other day, I'm the loudest guy in the gym. I command a room. There's players down there, there's coaches down there watching, but I'm yelling at the top of my lungs because that's just my personality. And so it was hard. I just kept the goal that I wanted to play Division I basketball at the highest level. And I had friends, for sure. I had friends that supported me, and I was popular. A lot of girls liked me, so that was kind of an outlet to spend time with as well. But I still stayed focused. But it really took my trust issues to another level, because it's like you said, I got to be out there in the court with these guys who I knew said nasty things about me, or would fake that they liked me to invite me to a sleepover,
sabotage.
to choke me out and laugh and then make videos of it.
Wolf in sheep's clothing, right?
Yeah, exactly. And like you honed on this big time. Like bullying is a real thing. And I don't think it's focused on enough. And I'll have parents come to me and be like, hey, you just, like, I may get emotional talking about, like, you just made my kid's day because he's being bullied, and this is an outlet for him, and he's leaving with a smile. And I'm like, you know what? Only if you knew my story, I relate.
Love that. Well, I'm so glad you're sharing this, because I think a lot of people could benefit from seeing someone like you be so successful and so authentic and so strong, like truly strong in every dimension. Like, I slapped your shoulder the other day on the court at Pepperdine, and I was like, yeah, this guy's a freaking athlete. I love it.
Thank you.
But what advice would you have for someone's like kind of going through that kind of, any dynamic of bullying is all in a category that is like very challenging. So like when people are going through it, like what would you kind of suggest that they do?
When you're an athlete at that high of a level, you're doing something right. So you're an outcast. So people are going to talk. And so you just use that as motivation when you grind and wake up, because those hours that you're putting in, people don't see, but it's going to pay off. I'm up at 5 a.m. training. I train till 11. I don't stop. And what has that led to? That's led to me putting more hours in than most trainers, and therefore why I've climbed the ladder as fast as I have.
So you have one sister.
Yes.
Give us a sense of the age gap and then how the dynamic in the family worked as it relates to basketball and maybe other things.
So I have a sister who is 3 years older than me. Is the smartest person in the room, brilliant, always great at test taking, is 6'2". So before I hit my growth spurt in 8th grade, my dad thought, oh my gosh, my son is not going to be above 6'2". So she was the basketball star. That was her outlet. She did a little bit of playing the violin a little bit because she was kind of nerdy, She went through an awkward stage, but then, and that's something she was insecure about, but then chose basketball and found a way to shine through that and was able to go on to the University of Florida, study pre-med there, play in the SEC, have the three-point record, shoot over 40% from the three, and then she realized she loved medicine and wanted to go into pre-med and went to med school, and now she's a psychiatrist at a hospital in Kentucky, and her stories and her life is amazing to hear. And so we're very close now, and she's been at some of my trainings where I've trained Travis Perry in Kentucky, who's going to the University of Kentucky. I took her to the Super Bowl. She watched my 5-star Tunde play. So she loves the game. I love the game. We relate to that, but we're so close on and off the floor that we can talk about anything.
Love that.
She's got my back.
Sounds like I might need to interview her on my new pod.
Yeah.
Because she sounds like an awesome person.
She'd be a great one.
She's got the full package, the full thing where it's like
we'll go out and
academics, now doing something as great as being a psychiatrist that is giving back and using that education to kind of pay it forward in wonderful ways.
Because she can read everyone.
So
she's sitting in the room just observing.
I wanted her to assess me maybe on the mic.
She's never wrong.
Yeah, is that right?
So when she talks about like a girl or someone, and I'm like, I don't want to hear it. She's never wrong. Like, she's usually not
Interesting.
wrong. Yeah.
So you ask her for advice with like maybe a girlfriend,
or she tells me.
She tells you.
And I'm like, I don't want to hear it.
Love it.
So,
but what is it fair to say that you both made each other better in the game of basketball?
Yeah, we did. It was our outlet. We would play 1-on-1 in 8th grade, and I'd be so competitive to beat her because she was smarter than me. I wasn't the smart one. So I'm like, all right, she's got great grades and she can hoop. Like I struggle with school and I can hoop and I have temper problems. So we would play 1-on-1 all the time in the gym. It'd start good or work out, and then it'd get too physical, and then my mom would get called because we were fists were thrown.
You're now in high school getting looks at these programs. You mentioned you went to Western Michigan. How long? What was that about? Like, how long were you there, and then when did you move on to?
I went to Western Michigan. I had tore my ACL as a senior in high school, so I had gone through that tough year of being bullied as a junior, and as a sophomore, and actually more as a sophomore. Then I tore my ACL going into my senior year in an AAU game, so I had to sit out my senior season. Then I had rehabbed it like you're supposed to. 6 months, I was okay. Came back at 6 months. Played in Italy on a USA Select team. Came back, toured again at 8 months. So I was told I'd never be the same player. My rehab's probably gonna be 2 to 3 years. Western Michigan decided still to honor my scholarship. But when I went there, I was not treated very well, and then they cut me so that I'd take me to IUPUI with a coach, Jason Gardner, who I had a relationship with in AAU, and he played me 2 years there, and it was a great experience, and I went on to go play overseas after that.
Amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know if this went through your mind at the time when you had the injury, but there's a kind of an interesting thing that a lot of athletes do that have injuries, or they had something about their last season that wasn't good enough, or they weren't at a level that was going to get them in, like, truly in the door at the D1 programs.
Right.
And so they do what's called a PG year. So that's post-grad year of high school. So you get these guys that have graduated high school the first time, and then they do a 5th year, and that's the year all about their athletic pursuits. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times there'll be a professional team like the NHL or the NBA or the NFL or whomever that wants them to do that, because there are some schools that are the programs are going to be exactly what they need. They can lift, they can have a great coach that has a relationship with those programs, all that stuff. And so they use that. Did anything like that, was anything like that considered by you because of that injury, or were you just like, I got to keep moving forward and just kind of get to the next level wherever that is?
With Western Michigan, they were my first Division I offer as like a sophomore in high school, so they took a chance on me. So I was like, you know what, they were loyal for me through the beginning. So I think this is the school to go with. And I knew that I was going to be a big fish in a small pond and play right away. My goal was to play in the Big Ten. My goal was to play in the ACC. And I had letters from these schools. I visited Wake Forest twice. I'd visited Penn State twice, Wisconsin, but I was still the underdog, because I wasn't the most athletic. I wasn't 6'7". I couldn't dunk like all these athletic guys. I could score. So that was a huge deciding factor to go to Western Michigan to have a good experience and play. But I was hurt, so that kind of sidelined me, and really set me back.
Well, I saw you dunk, and I can dunk too, but I'm just kidding.
I'm in my prime.
You think I can dunk? No, I can't dunk. You're
you
gonna give me
could.
there.
Hey, let's
So your dog's name again?
Mila.
Mila. When I saw your dog,
Yeah.
Mila, I was like, that dog is you. Just a dog.
I know.
And she's so sweet.
Thank you. So
when
we walk around everywhere.
I can't wait for her to meet my crazy puppy dogs. They'll probably hassle her.
Like, I've never seen a dog so loyal. That's what I love about.
She's so impossibly sweet. She's like a horse.
Yeah, but there'll be a bunch of people around, and she'll just still want to be with me. If she's at the dog park, she'd rather hang out with me than here. Let's lay down. You're too.
Before we started rolling, you had to use the restroom, and she followed you in there.
I know. Go lay down. Lay down. Good girl.
That's awesome.
Okay. Yeah. Lay down.
She's okay. I kind of like it. I do want to dig into your relationship with your dad.
Yeah.
Because he sounds like obviously a giant figure in your life in many respects. He sounds like an amazing person, obviously athlete, certainly coach. What was your relationship with your father like?
My dad was always the one that would take me to every baseball game, buy me bats just in case he thought it'd have me hit well, wake up to go get shots up in the morning, would show up to every game. He was so involved in my life with sports. He was so involved in my life when I struggled with classes. He would find a tutor. My dad was a very good, had great people skills.
What's his first name?
Leo Svete. Yeah, yeah. He's actually Leo.
Oh, no kidding. You're Leo Jr.?
But we call him Lee. So I'm Leo the fifth. So 5 Leos in my family.
Leo Sr. I feel like that whole thing that some people do is so cool.
We'll see if I keep it going. I've thought about it.
If you want to announce something,
so he was around sports a lot, and he raised me very well. He traveled a lot with work for sure. But where I am so outgoing, my strong personality, being able to speak in front of a camera, being able to speak in a microphone in front of people, I got that from him. But just like anyone, my dad went through some really, really tough times as well. Families are tough, moving, and he's doing amazing now. And he's at the University of Radford as the director of the Career Center in his mid-60s. So whatever, he's been through tough times, but he's picked himself back up and gotten through it. And we have a great relationship.
Love that. Mm-hmm. Learning about the person behind the coach, if that's a way to phrase it, and obviously through your eyes, experiencing it in such intimate ways, early in the morning, late at night, and when you're down, he's in some way bringing you something that was getting you, sort of bringing you forward. So how did you take what you got from and what you're getting from, because he's probably still a giant in your life, to sort of pay it forward with other athletes that are coming of age in the way that a terrific coach typically does?
He was tough on me, but he wasn't that dad that goes crazy on the sidelines when their kid wasn't playing well. So my dad coached a lot of my AAU travel ball teams. All my teammates and friends loved playing for him, because he was positive, but he'd get on you when you were messing up.
Yep.
And so when my dad would train me, he would teach me, hey, feet straight, lock your arm out and spread your fingers on your jump shot. Focus on that. And because my dad could shoot the ball pretty well. So he really taught me the fundamentals and would always remind me, hey, you're missing because your feet are turned. Like he can evaluate a shot. So I learned a little bit that way. And just like his positive coaching, he was a very positive coach.
Love that.
And so I think I've taken a lot of that from him. But I mean, the way I really get on players, I probably learned that from coaches being so tough on me. But then I was like, you know what? That's constructive. But I'm gonna change in it and be positive as well too.
Yeah, you need
so
both.
These kids trust me, and that's how I kind of put everything together.
Yeah, I love that. And I saw that IRL in real life 2 days ago at Pepperdine, which we'll talk briefly about, because it was wonderful to watch. And I was like, for any player that can be trained by you, it's like, that's a blessing, because
Thank
you got the whole thing where it's, like Coach K, for example, legendary coach. He could be very hard on his players, but I don't know the full dynamics because I've never been on his team. But from what I've seen, I think he can be inspirational. He can build them up. He can be hard on them and have very high expectations. But ultimately, that's how you win championships, right? It's like the winner's mindset that
it is.
Addison Malone was talking about with us on camera. So we'll share more of her story later. But how do you feel like you're one of the only sort of coaches out there in the kind of work that you're doing that has that approach of holistic? You can sort of be hard and technical, and remind Addie to kind of about her feet and her wrist. There was a moment where you spent a good maybe 5 minutes reminding her about her movement, and that tweaked her shot, and then she was draining threes from 6 foot out as a 5'3". Is she a guard?
5'3" guard. Incredible. Shooting from pretty far. I've been doing a lot of these trainings this past 6 months, and she was in the top 3.
Wow.
That far.
That's phenomenal.
That little with those legs. And
she's built strong.
To answer your question, there are shooting coaches out there. Chris Matthews, the lethal shooter. I don't know him personally. Phil Handy's a great trainer who works with the Lakers, who's close with LeBron. But I think what I bring that's different is I can be the homie. I can build you up, but I'm real. And you're not always gonna like me, but you're gonna trust me. And you're going to see results. And when you're going through things like these players that I go and train, I don't find the best player in the team. I find someone who's different, someone who really wants it, that can still really make it, and all they need is an extra push. I have a story that I think may go viral once I share this, and it just happened this past week. So there's a guy named Trayvon Scott. He's played with the Cleveland Cavaliers a little bit. He's played in the G League. And Trey and I have been in touch for like five months, but it's hard to get these guys to train because they're so busy with their schedule. Trey had me come train in Greensboro with the Greensboro Swarm G League about 2 weeks ago. At that time, Trey was not getting any minutes at all, okay? He had 3 games. His confidence was down. But you know what? The guy wanted to work out at 11 p.m. at night because he knew my skill was that valuable, okay? And Trey was shooting 19% from the 3 for the Swarm, so his confidence was low. And I brought his confidence back up, made some tweaks to his shot. He got traded to the Osceola Magic, and now he's going off. He went 3 for 5 from threes 2 games ago. And then just yesterday, he had posted like making a move and hitting a shot. And now the guy could be working up to a 10-day contract in the NBA.
Incredible.
So that's the story that I show. I find these guys that are going through it, that are on a big time team, but it's like, hey, What's the deciding factor to get your confidence back up, to get there? Because I didn't have that. And so that's what I try to bring.
I love that, and I can very much relate to it, because as a coach, I'm trying to be the coach that I really wanted. I've always had coaches, but I wanted someone that had been through the kind of things that I was doing, like in the seat, so that they could be wiser and relate in a way that was, not just kind of being a great, let's say, like life coach or executive coach or what have you, but really getting the full scope of like what it's like to be an athlete at that level, where it's hard, right? Like, you when we first met, and I think when we grabbed coffee, you talked about being, sent to Bosnia to play, professional basketball there, and being so far away from home. I can only imagine, we didn't get into it, but I can only imagine, let's say, the compensation and the endorsements and all those things for playing professional basketball overseas are not nearly, they're not in the same zip code as the NBA. Right?
Not even close.
Yeah.
You're playing for film. You're playing to feed your body. You get, most Division I players that go overseas make anywhere from $500 to $2,500 a month their first rookie season. And so that's how you build yourself up. You got to really love the game. I played for 6 years. I did it for 6 years, 22 countries I played in. So I'd do 3 months in Bosnia, 4 months in Albania, 2 months in El Salvador, 3 months in China, and just lived out of a suitcase. And I think that's where a lot of the old soul I have, my emotional intelligence that you told me, comes from. Because you got to survive in these foreign countries as an outcast, like I talked about first, and make it work because you love the game that much.
So at what point then did you think to yourself, all right, I can only do this for so long. It's not, my needs aren't getting met, and now it's time to maybe shift into coaching?
Yeah, I was chasing the dream of playing, and it's hard to really work yourself way up to get out a very high salary. And I was like, okay, I'm living out of a suitcase. I'm staying at these people's guest houses in California with the kids that I train. This isn't very stable. Okay, my dating has failed 4 times in a row with 3 different girlfriends because there's no stability. I'm out of a suitcase. My life is very unpredictable. I got the best thing that happened to me, my Great Dane. And so I realized having her, I couldn't travel. And COVID hit. I always knew I was good at coaching. I wasn't a shooting coach then. I had teams. So it was Team Svete. So I had AAU travel teams.
Oh, amazing.
Then I would train them on the side.
Incredible.
But I realized I was a better trainer than a coach in a sense, a team coach.
Maybe you can define that for us, because I actually was curious about that.
Yeah, I would say one-on-one coaching is more psychology. It's more therapeutic. Coaching is more of a team gathering, trying to work with a bunch of individuals to win. It's not as personable. And there's a lot of pressure to win with kids in the Bay Area because parents pay a lot of money for it. So the parents get really involved in travel basketball, AAU basketball, and it takes a lot away from the kids. So I realized that. And I kind of just, COVID hit, and I did virtual trainings as well. I'd run camps and fly back to California, and I had her when I was living in Florida at the time. And then kind of I just started training, and my story is so long. I was coaching my teams, I was training, but I'd hit rock bottom due to alcohol, due to drugs. And then I was kind of lost and didn't know what I wanted to do. So I went on a reality TV show to try to find love, and I did, and that worked. And that kind of changed my mindset moving to LA. And then I really, after the show, fell in love with training. Like just became obsessed with it.
Love it.
Where I just wanted to help. I'd go to bed, hey, this kid's got to hit 10 in a row in my mind. How can I make it work? And then I had one Division I player that took a chance on me and said, hey, yeah, you can do a video. I did it for free.
Oh, yeah, believe it, yeah.
And that led to where I'm at now.
I did it for free. I have several that
A year later, that's what led to where I'm at now.
When I first became a coach, like you're trying to get your business off the ground and people to believe that you can actually coach. So I just, for a number of people that I thought I could really help, and that were willing to give me a shot, I coach them for free. And I still coach them a year later because it's so great. And the thing I tell all my coaching clients, prospective or actual, is that, they're making an investment in coaching.
Yep.
And so my goal is it's a similar kind of goal that you're describing with your clients and these athletes is that I actually write in my sort of proposals, I want to give you a 10x return on your investment.
And I think and as you know, being in tech, being in startups, running your own business, a lot of these people that are successful, you'll never know who they are. And I think that's kind of what I've learned a lot is training in Northern California in the Bay Area. These clients that I have, their parents are CEOs of GoDaddy, you know, president of the 49ers, surgeons. And when they walk into that half-court gym that I have, you would never know.
I love that. So this is actually another short anecdote, and then we'll wrap up with a couple final questions. Because I saw my dad run a private airport where his clients were billionaires that owned these crazy, amazing planes. It sounds like you've flown on some of them. I saw the people that own the plane, and I saw the people that rented the plane. And there's a big difference. The people that own the $70 million plane, might get picked up in a older nondescript SUV, Suburban, Tahoe, whatever.
Yeah.
The people that rent the plane, stretch limo, Hummer, yellow Lamborghini, the whole thing. So I was like, that's really an interesting thing here. Because I noticed that in the film business where I worked, that the people that showed money didn't have money.
True.
The people that had money don't show money, and I really respect that.
And it's an insecurity.
It's an insecurity.
Because that was me when I was younger.
Yeah. You can when you get exposed to this kind of thing, you start noticing the people that are really confident and have nothing to prove, and yet they've got all of the proof kind of in their wake. And it's about how they treat people. It's about how they care for their family. It's about how they give back.
Yep.
And one of the things that ties in with the this project is that I think many of the most successful people, there are many amazing people, especially entrepreneurs, that don't even have a college degree, and they are ultra successful. The whole thing where you go to these elite schools and like that's the thing to go to the law firm, go to Wall Street. There's nothing wrong with that. I participate in that at some level, but because that's the system. But I think that for so many people that don't get to access that, there's 20 million entrepreneurs in this country. It's by far the biggest employer in the country, to my knowledge. I don't have to check the stats on that, but I'm pretty sure it's not the Fortune 500 companies. It's the small businesses all around every town and city in this country. And so it's the dry cleaner.
Yep.
It's it's the coaches. It's the
small
the bakery.
businesses, man.
It's the
I always try to
dealerships.
support small businesses.
Yeah,
always.
So yeah, me too.
Because I can relate.
You could totally relate, and it's like it's hard building a business, which is why I'm trying to coach them through the ups and downs. So I know you've got a training session to get to, so we're going to wrap up with a couple final things. Actually, I got two questions for you. First is, what have you learned from your dog, Milo?
I've learned from my dog patience, to take a deep breath, to love hard, to not hold grudges, and be joyful. Yeah, she's taught me so much.
Yeah, I have 4 pets, 2 cats, 2 dogs, and they likewise have taught me a lot.
And she's been through a lot, man.
Yeah,
same. 2 relationships.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's hard on them too, right? Like being in love with the people that you're in love with.
Right.
It's heartbreaking. Right. She's incredibly sweet. I just can't wait to go hug her. What message do you have for people out there? And in two kind of audiences that I think would be interesting. Actually, any audience you want for sure.
Yeah.
And you can give any shout out to I want people to be able to get in contact with you. We'll get to that in a second. But for people who are bullied or people that are coming of age and wanting to do great things, what would you say to them?
I would tell them, write a goal down, write something that you're passionate about. Think about it 24/7, and if you really want to get to that, find a way to get to it. Put in the work, whether it's an instrument, whether it's playing football, whether it's basketball, because all that other bullshit that you're dealing with at the time will not matter, because all that hard work and whatever you did, if you read that chapter book in an hour and you took notes, that takes your mind off of all the tough stuff. For me, for an example of being a shooting coach, no one helps me. And I will say that. Agents don't help me. NBA scouts don't help me. College coaches don't help me. These players believe in me. They believe in my vision, and that's where I've gotten to where I've got.
At Pepperdine 2 days ago, I witnessed you coaching an incredible athlete, student athlete, who has her own story that's remarkable, and it speaks to the kind of thing that I want to be talking about a lot in the show, which is she went from being, my very first kind of video podcast was with a kid named Tucker Perrin.
Yeah.
Who was kind of like had a 4.5 year campaign, more or less, to play D1 soccer at UVM.
Right.
And
oh,
I knew this story was
yes.
so remarkable because he stuck with it, right? I go through my report cards, which I still have from growing up, and it was about how hard I worked. Even if a topic or a subject was hard, I would just give it everything I had. And that, I think that's really gone a long way for me, having that. But in the case of Maddie, she won 3 state championships in Las Vegas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, I asked her, where are your rings? I mean, you don't play with them?
I know.
And I'm like, this is the same thing with Tucker, captain of high school, standout athlete.
Yeah.
It's his identity. And then not getting any looks, almost certainly because of her height. Because, you know, being under 5 foot, I think she said 6 or 7 as a female D1 basketball player is rare.
It's almost
and
impossible.
So she ends up going to community college.
Yeah.
For a year, and now has transferred. She's performed great, focused on her studies and other things, and was able to get into a world-class school like Pepperdine in Malibu, where she now has a shot to be the star. And she's going to be the star, which I can't wait to try.
Yeah, definitely. She just needs someone to believe in her and confidence. And I think that's what's so cool. She didn't know I was the underdog. She looks at this guy, oh, he trains this player. He's been on a show. He's got a lot of followers. But I could relate to her story, right? Like, and that's probably why the workout went so well.
Yeah, so you and I are going to be talking about a bunch of things because I think we can team up on some things that were really interesting.
I'm very excited.
I've got a moniker for you that we can add to the world's best or shooting coach, which is the underdog coach. You know, because I'm that too in some way. Like, I love coaching the people. I don't want necessarily like the venture-backed founder that's got a big ego. Right. I want the person that just is going to work and commit and have that relationship with me as a coach. That means that they trust, and that they also do the work, and that they have that good,
communication,
a good attitude, and are grateful for the whole thing, the whole journey.
Because that's a great way.
There's no ceiling for someone like Addie,
right.
both on the court and off the court.
Mm-hmm.
Neither is there for Tucker.
Yeah.
Tucker's story is so good. I wrote the best recommendation I've ever written to anyone for him because of that.
And I think what you do is the same thing I do is you interview these people before you invest your time.
Yeah, it's a two-way thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I don't sell coaching anymore. I attract the client I want, and then we have a conversation that means that, okay, is this gonna be the kind of person I want to work with that I can really help?
But you're great at reading people too. So am I. You know, you can 100%.
So, Leo, this has been a ton of fun. Thank you so much for sitting down with us. I know you got to go dunk on, any number of people.
Yeah, I got to go watch Tunde. Tunde is a guy from Benin, Africa, trying to make it to the NBA to get his mom out of there. And so he's ranked 8th in the country. He's going to be a McDonald's All-American. Wow. And this guy's like a little brother to me. So
this is so great. I cannot wait to continue following your story, deepen yet further our friendship. I feel like I've known you for decades already. But
more coffee dates.
Take pictures, take videos if you can, or ask someone maybe that's staying around to do that, because we'll tie it all up into his story, and maybe we can chat with him at some point.
Yeah, that's the goal.
Yeah. Good stuff. All right, keep doing your thing, my man.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me. That was unbelievable. I felt amazing to share my story and hear about yours as well.